I'll probably leave it there.
Okay, so we're going
Thank
to
you.
start handing those out now.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, you guys. Does that mean this is the first time I'm using slides? All right. Hi, good morning. Do I sound like Ethel Merman? It sounds nasally to me. I'm going to stand back from this because I'm self-conscious. I'm sweating, just so you know. I'm really honored to be here. I can't believe that I was asked. I was here last month and saw Ian Grace and sat there going, how can I fucking be included in this? I can't believe this. I'm not as cool as these people. And that's basically how I've lived my whole life. I know it sounds self-deprecating, but it's not. It's just kind of my nature. I'll give you a little backstory just for context. You know, and forgive me if I say yada yada a lot. It's a habit, and it's just part of our culture and the language of our era, I guess. My parents adopted my sister and I in India, where they lived and worked for over a decade, and went back to North America. And there we embarked on a very serendipitous North American life. And my parents were academics. My dad was a professor. And they enrolled my older, younger sister and myself in ballet. So when I was about 3 1/2, I started to self-identify as a prima ballerina. And that stayed with me. And it still stays with me. So this type of self-identification, without my being self-aware at that age, probably started early and started to inform my work, basically. Not that I knew it was work at the time. So my sisters and I started doing ballet, and then we quickly dove into a childhood of fine arts. So taking piano lessons and ballet, and starting to do all the fine arts festivals in every town my father dragged us around to. We lived in Kentucky, in Lexington, home in the Red Mile, which is a horse racing place. And then moved us to a place called Dauphin, Manitoba, which is Canada's national Ukrainian capital. We were about 12. My sister was 13, I was 12. And it was very impacting on a psyche of a young girl. And I basically started coming of age and cutting my teeth. I discovered Français pratique and started to perform French spoken poetry in all the fine arts festivals, and really found my love. The love of my life was poetry when I was a kid. And there was nothing I liked more than tragedy, and I still do. And I started writing poems to my parents, I think, until they became quite filthy. And I wrote them to boys. Little did I know that it would set up my long career of lyric writing. So I've included this photograph to start, because this is really a creative life that I've been able to carve out for myself. And I don't know why the fuck I'm so lucky, really. I don't know why. But I was, and I am. And I've been able to do that for 20 years. And it's remarkable to me. It's remarkable that I actually don't live out of my car. Really, you know, it really is. And this, it's been quite incredible. I've been badgered and badgered and badgered and badgered, just because I'm a hopelessly romantic writer. And the smallest event I will turn into a 2,500 word essay about the tragedy and beauty of the milkshake, or whatever the fuck I'm writing about. And as a result of that kind of habit that I have, I've been badgered into writing this book. And I don't want to write a book, let's be clear. I think it's kind of ridiculous. And I think that's because of how I self-identify. I don't think that occurred to me until I started writing it. And for the first year of writing my book, for a year, every essay I wrote was about how stupid it was, how stupid I was, how I'm not worthy of having a book, this is stupid, this is why. And I mean, I wrote a year of this crap, a year of this crap. And it makes me laugh now because I learned so much about my bullshit that I was astounded and went, oh my God, no wonder that I was self-identifying as this person. And as a result, everything I've ever done is based on how I saw myself, or everything I haven't done was because of how I saw myself. And that really picked my ass more than anything. And I thought, I wonder how many other people are not doing something because of how they see themselves, or are not doing their entire potential. Because if I'm not doing my entire potential, they say we don't use 100% of our brains. And my countering to that is always, oh yeah, motherfucker, well we don't use 100% of our heart either. So I've made some photocopies that everyone has. And you know, I've never really, I was very fortunate after I got out of chemo, which is kind of like one of two things. It's either like getting out of prison, or it's like leaving the Waco, Texas ranch you've been living on. But it's, a lot of people wind up having epiphanies and having life-changing ideology come flying around because they feel very renewed and very hopeful. And I was no different. Oh, do I hit the space bar? Do I touch this and then it will change? Okay. Fuck. Incredible. So this is toward the end of my treatment. And you know, I don't like, I never self-identified as a cancer patient ever. And I didn't like a lot of people that I met and work with. I work with a lot of patients now, and that's a whole other story. Because I only have 20 minutes, I'm very long-winded, and I apologize. But basically, that motivation, people say, oh, isn't it nice, you're giving back, isn't it something? What the fuck are you talking about? I'm not giving back. I'm getting, I'm receiving. And what it is, it's not self-validation. It's nothing like that. But when I was fortunate enough to be in this environment for a year and a half of my life, it opened my eyes to so many things that were needed just for us as human beings. And what I mean is, communication-wise, there was nothing I saw that didn't look like a lot of shame in waiting rooms, and that bothered me. It bothered me. And perhaps because it was reflecting my own childhood shit, which I'm still working out in my book, you'll have to read about it. You know, perhaps it was reflecting something from me, why it resonated with me. Perhaps it was mirroring something, perhaps perhaps it became awkward for me. Did I break this? It's not surprising if I did. But anyway, I started hanging out with them a little more because I wanted to be around them. And I realized that, like an elevator, I'm the one that can't shut the fuck up. If it's quiet in the elevator and nobody's talking, you're guaranteed. There's me, that little ballerina kid, going, hey, nice weather outside, isn't it? How old's your dog? What did you have in your sandwich? My mom makes sandwiches too. You know, and that's never died. That's never died in me, and it never will. And I think that for whatever reason, that little person inside of me came out in the waiting room because I went, oh fuck, there's shame. Hey, hey, what are you doing here? Let's talk about, want to see my scars? You know, like anything. I would do anything to create dialogue. And what happened was, I realized that everybody thought exactly the same things that I thought. And we would laugh about anything and everything to do with our treatment, and it normalized it, for me anyway, and for a lot of the patients that I was working with and talking to. And it became, it just became normalizing. You know, it became not validating, but it was a sense of mutuality that I hadn't found anywhere else. And it became something that kept empowering me without my realizing it, I guess. Anyway, I wound up self-identifying as that kid. I'm actually quite bald in that photograph, and I got that wig from the Bay, downtown. I got a lot of wigs. And you know, everyone starts out with all their whatever kind of crazy wigs they have. I usually just wore a baseball hat because I'm in the dog park when I'm not working. But that's how I still identify myself in many ways, and that's a part of me that I really enjoy. And this kid here is still trying to write this book. And so right around this time, I'm going, this is fucking stupid, this is fucking stupid, this is fucking stupid. And it had to change. And so, and I touched this. And so, here's what happens. I didn't have a computer until about 4 years ago. I never cared. I just never cared. We went on tour in a dirty, stinky van with no door in 1990. And that's basically what I did with my whole life. When we started touring, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, nothing. Believe me, there was no auto-tune. Just take a listen, you can hear that, boy. But as a result, all I ever did was handwrite stuff. I hand wrote, and you know, I had this little cartoon that I drew, and that little cartoon would, you know, say things like, I'm gonna bash that promoter's brains in because he said something misogynistic to me. And then I could still be all happy and polite when I spoke to people, because what I was doing was kind of getting out my emotions through this, this visual stuff that I was making. Nobody really saw it. And now at home, I'm stuck with probably 2,500 fucking sketchbooks full of crap that I have to sift through so that I can finish my book. It'll take me 8 years, just so we're all aware of that. I'm happy with that, frankly. And I started identifying in the last year and a half. I went, oh fuck, I think I was always an artist. I always thought I was a ballerina, and then I was doing this temporary thing in bands. You know, well, I'm just gonna do this because I originally got into it because I liked the boy with the mohawk who I married. And well, he worked for Greenpeace. I mean, why wouldn't I marry him? You know, that one didn't last either, but I digress. And so the band thing was really temporary. I never really, you know, had a deep burning desire to go and put my poetry to music or do anything, but I was always a performer, and being a performing arts kid, it was just natural for me, and it just kind of was a perpetual motion, you know. You wind up doing a tour, and then they book you another tour while you're on tour, and then the next thing you know, you're doing the Leno show, and the next thing you know, you don't eat for 10 years because you're freaked out, and the next thing you know, you're like, fuck, what did I do with my life? And the truth is, I really just want to kind of hang out and draw in my sketchbooks all the time and write my book and eat salad. So this is kind of what I do a lot of the time when I'm not in the office. And sometimes when I am in the office, I'll get kicked out. Art is a subjective thing, just like music. Music is an art form, and a lot of people don't like a lot of different bands. Recently, in the last few days, I've noticed a band I was getting dissed really bad on the internet, and it's just like, and I always get, if somebody's in conflict, I'm gonna get a stomach ache, by the way. If anything's going on that's conflicting, and I won't name anything, I just walk around with a bad stomach ache all the time, and this band was no different, and it made me think, well gosh, you know, all these people are identifying this band, and slamming them and saying all these terrible things. They're terrible, they suck, and they're dog shit, and they're terrible. And I just thought, yeah, but that's just to you. Because there's somebody else, they're really, really important, you know? And I used to think that about Britney Spears and all these bands, because I got in an argument with a record rep, believe it or not, in Copenhagen in 1996. It's in the book, you'll have to wait to read about it. But it was a really, it was a very heated debate, and this guy was hugely opinionated about an American dance artist, and he was, let's be honest, he was being a bit of a cock. And so I suggested to him, you know, it might not be valid to you as an art form what that person's doing, but it's still their art. You kind of don't get to say. It's really valid to somebody else. And he wasn't having any of that. But anyway, visual art is the same. Everyone has their own opinions about art and artists and whether or not they're shit, or whether or not they're great, or miraculous, or the next so-and-so. And it's always interesting to me. Art is subjective, just like music, just like talking, just like how we dress. Everyone dresses themselves. It's sad, isn't it? But again, it goes back to, you know, self-identity. I know a girl locally who is an artist. She's an oil painter. God bless her if she's got the kind of space to deal with that kind of stink. I don't. I paint in acrylics. And I don't really like her paintings all that much. I mean, they're great because I think everybody does great things, and I like everybody, and that's just kind of how I roll. But I really don't think that her paintings really are worth what she sells them for. And she said, what do you think they're worth? I'm like, I don't know. She said, what do you think your paintings are worth? And I said, well, I don't know. I've never sold a painting. She goes, why? Well, why would I wouldn't know, because why would I do that? I just do it for me. And she was like, you're fucking crazy. Knock yourself out. And I never thought about it. And I thought, well, gosh, it's probably because I don't identify. I don't self-identify as an artist. Why would I sell a painting? It's just, I'm just a hack. Oh, let me see, why don't you submit your poem to this contest, Biff? No, I'm not really a poet, I'm just a hack. Why don't you go on this singing thing? I can't really sing, it was just a joke, you know, I just kind of went on tour. I don't know. You know, and it again, sometimes it kind of, it veers into self-deprecation, and then it made me wonder and question myself and think, wow, is this worthiness shit? What's going on here? What is going on? I bet I'm not creating half of the stuff that I want to create. I don't do half of this stuff I think of. You know how you think of something, you go, oh yeah, when you're in the bank line, and then you don't do anything, because then life takes over and you kind of forget about it, and you don't write it down in your little book that you carry around. Doesn't everybody carry around? Oh, right. I don't have an iPhone, so I don't. But after watching you guys take pictures on your iPhone, I'm like, oh, that looks very easy. Oh, I see. Oh, it's the pic. Maybe I'll get one. That is how I self-identify, 100% of the time. And the truth is, and I believe, and again, I'm talking out of my ass, it's just me. But I really believe that every single one of us, the reason we can relate to each other, and this is why I like people so much, and I really do. I think that everyone is that age, really, inside. And I mean that in a good way and a bad way. I think that all of our stuff, all of our little secret feelings and emotions that we're, half the time we're not really aware of what it is. I think it all really still stems from that person that we all are. And that person there can draw pictures and make paintings and write really, you know, lousy dramatic poetry and choreograph a dance to show my mom later and do all these things without any self-worth issues, nothing stopping that person, no blocks, none, no fears. And I think that's what the big deal is. It's all about fear, and it's not fear of success. What is fear with creativity? Is it anxiety? Is it just insecurity? I don't know. But that person is fearless, no matter what. And that's who I want to be. When I wake up, I'm that person. When I go to sleep, I'm that person. It's all during the day that shit changes. So basically, that individual there is a manifestation of the previous slide. Mark showed me how to go back to it, but I don't remember. Anyway, that basically is really the truth of how I self-identify. And I've been able to channel that little person into my CD artwork since 1994 when I put my first disc out. And I hand wrote all my lyrics out on it, and I drew my little pictures and said my little thank yous to everyone I wanted to thank. And now the industry's changed, and how we handle our music is different. So currently, my creative lessons and challenges are trying to navigate how to make my art book for my 2 musical offerings that I have coming out. And it's different. Things have changed. And what I'm starting to figure out is that I've changed. And how I see myself is changing and changing and changing all the time. I don't know if I had to grow up and get older to kind of go, oh, fuck, wow, yeah, I guess that's just how things change and evolve, and it's cool. And but I wanted to make these yesterday at the Kinko's. The girl was relatively polite to me. She did loan me her highlighter pen. For that, I'm quite grateful. But you know, I just really thought every single day, for me, it changes. And that's going to affect what I create in that day and whether or not I create at all that day. If I am one of those different people, who are you when you wake up? What are you going to do? Who are you when you sit down to write? You're a different person than when you're chopping your zucchinis. You guys chop zucchinis, right? I understand. Yeah. I'll think of another metaphor that you can relate to. But my point is, I think that if we try and honor whoever we are at that time, that we're trying to create something, I think it'll become more of a creative process. I can create better if I remain that fearless, toothless child. Really, I can create better. I can love bigger. I can talk more. I can play with my dog more, whatever it is. Anyway, I hope that everyone goes back to being their child today at some point and create something. And if you don't have time to create anything, just draw a picture on the page and you've created something. I know, I'm getting the cane. I always get the cane. I appreciate the cane. I need to be reined in. We're going to do question and answer?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Oh,
Good for you, though.
thank you.
Okay. Here we go. I'm going to run around and play the Merv Griffin character.
Fun.
And then you can
Okay.
blow them away with brilliance. Okay. Who wants to start? Figures.
Hi, Biff. Our group really wanted to know a little bit more about when you felt that the fear kind of started to take over. What age were you at? Like, you know, where you're a kid and you like totally free to do whatever you want. You don't care about what anyone else thinks. Was there a point that someone said something that kind of stifled you creatively, that kind of changed things for you?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question, but it's really so multi-layered. Well, you know, there's so many different things that stifle me personally, creatively, but I didn't realize it. And it's only, you know, I can go into this big, ridiculous talk about existentialism, you know, as an artist, and all the different variety of reasons. And I think all the reasons that I get fear-based creative blocks are the same reasons that anybody does. And it's basically bullshit, really. It's like our own bullshit that keeps us from doing something creative. Our creative responsibility to the artist within us, basically, we're shirking it. In the context of songwriting, I was always kind of basically poetry writing to music and doing it on a deadline. So I had no choice many times. And also, a piece of music, I'm so happy every day that I can listen to music, that I'm able to do that. I should have tinnitus or be deaf, really and truly, from all the various monitoring systems and my proximity to guitars for so long. I've never worn earplugs in my life. And the fact that I have hearing is a fucking miracle. It makes me religious, like it's a miracle. So it's really, and so I'm so greatly affected by all sensory stimuli, and we all are. It's just a matter of really making a note of it every time it occurs. Like, you know, if anyone can recognize instantly, for example, a piece of music that moves them, whether it's Chopin, I really love piano stuff. Maybe it's from all my early ballet training and all that. Music that generally tend to accompany it, except for Nadia's theme, but that's another story. I digress. But also Vivaldi. Everyone can recognize Four Seasons, which is a good example of a piece of music, or else, I don't know, BTO or something, like something familiar. And everyone recognizes it instantly when they hear it. And it will always evoke a feeling within us. And generally it's pretty good because it's familiar to us and it sounds nice, like it sounds good to us. And that affects what we create in our moods and anyway, it also, I lost my train of thought. I started going, oh fuck, I'm taking so long answering this question, shut up. And then now I forgot the rest of it. I'm just being honest. Anyway, a lot of things block it.
Next question.
It took too long.
Thank you, Bill. May I ask, one of my favorite animation artists saying is, artists benefit most from their dream and their childhood. Would you agree with this?
The artists that benefit most?
From their dreams and childhood.
From their childhood dreams?
Dreams and their childhood time.
Do I benefit?
Yeah, their inspirations mainly from their dreams and their time.
I see.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, most definitely. I think that most of us, even whether or not we accidentally stumble into the work that we're doing, I think most of us really are kind of hopefully following our dreams. And if we're not, we should start right now, really. Whether, you know, anything can be art, even if you want to get your journeyman ticket, you know, in carpentry, really it is an art, it really is. And anything you do. My father changed careers in the middle of medical school. And I'm a complete and total study in environment, nurture versus nature. Because of my adoptive parents, I've become them. I can't believe it, you know, but I've become my parents, really and truly. My father, you know, he was a theology nut, basically, and they raised us in a multi-faith home. I'm digressing again, I know. They raised us in a really multi-faith home, and basically his dream was to be a doctor, and in the middle of medical school he discovered the mandible. Go figure. Quit and went to dental school, basically, and then of course it became a public health master's degree, because he's a bleeding heart socialist. My father fought in the Korean War. Well, she didn't. He fixed typewriters, but anyway. Well, sorry. But he followed his dream in the middle of something else, and I don't think that he knew that he had a childhood dream to be a dentist, certainly. Some other guy told me 2 days ago it was the highest number of suicides in any profession. I think that's an urban myth. Honestly, I think we need to check the figures, people. Because most dentists probably are in private practice, and they probably have a good life. Just a guess, not my father. But anyway, I am still following my childhood dream because I still self-identify as a ballerina, and I always will. It takes every effort for me not to stand in first position and talk to you looking like a duck. I'll keep talking, Mark. You gotta just cut me off. I'm sorry?
Which one is first position?
Just like this. It's most comfortable.
No, it's not. Okay, we got a lot of people from this.
My pants are falling down, if anyone wants to know.
Hi, Beth. Thank you very much for a great talk. I really appreciate it. I was intrigued because we were talking about if we still had that child, that you know, that same child that you pointed at, that kind of person, and that freedom. But having 2 8-year-olds, sometimes they don't get along.
The child in you and the adult?
The uninhibited child released in the adult, and I'm wondering, it's a powerful message to share with us, but do you also see that there could potentially be a downside?
No, and I'll tell you why. And what you've just spoken is interesting to me, because what you're talking about is the mind versus the heart. Really. I mean, when you boil it down to, I can find a way to put a metaphor to fucking anything. You know, I've made a career out of it. I think that really is what it boils down to. It's like the mind and the heart will always have that fight. Because you know, we live in this society, most of us here, in this room anyway, are brilliant. I'm just kidding. Most of us are pragmatic. Really, we're all basically pretty pragmatic, and you know, we want to be nice to people, and we want to live a good life, and we consider ourselves, we self-identify as being good people, and we, you know, really making even in our small efforts every day to be nice to each other or whatever it is. It doesn't matter if anybody else knows what you mutter through the windshield at the other drivers, or what you mutter at the computer screen, which I've decided is exactly the same language that you talk through the windshield. Am I right? You ever realize that you did that? I went, oh fuck, I'm talking like I'm driving here. What the? But I think it's good, and I think that's why people wind up gravitating towards stuff like yoga, you know. It allows people to unknowingly, almost unwittingly, and without deliberation, reconnect to their little toothless 8-year-old, which is really reconnecting to the heart. Or also, you know, in another translation, is returning to the breath, basically. So, you know, all of that beautiful language surrounding stuff like that, that's really meditative and self-honoring and self-nurturing, is really, truly returning to the toothless kid. You know, you can loosely translate all of that to it, and it all has the same intention, and it's all really good for us. And things that are self-honoring and self-nurturing, though they're good for us, they're really most wonderful for our creative nature, really, because once we feel connected to our heart or our little kid or whatever the fuck you want to call it, basically, the fear is gone, and it's really, we're not attached anymore to those fears that hold us back, those anxieties, and then we kind of enable ourselves to really be free to just really, you know, expand on whatever it is our little heart desires, also known as what our little toothless kid desires. It's really cool to consider in any given day for all of us, because life is just ridiculous. It's ridiculously busy for people, and it's easy for people to forget themselves and their kid. And once you remember that, then you can start honoring it in other people without even trying. It's just, it will come naturally. And it's really good. Because I talk too long, that's why. One more question, that's great, because I talk too long.
Hey Beth, as a way to practice, you just mentioned yoga, but is there any other things we could all take away from today to reconnect with 100% of our heart? Or 100% of our 8-year-old self?
Your sheet. That's why I made the sheet, because I just think that it's a question that, and honestly, anything that I say is really just my own bullshit. And, you know, really, grain of salt, grain of salt. Life is hard enough. There's enough people telling everybody what to do. It's just what I do for myself. And I made the sheet because I had to, those are questions I ask myself. And I always think, oh man, if I have to think this and if I have to do the work, I'll bet everybody does. I'll bet everybody does, and nobody talks about it. And that's what I learned in the cancer wards. Nobody was talking. Nobody talked about it. You know, people just sat there and they just look straight ahead and they don't look at each other and they just look at the floor. And I just think, that's not cool. That is not cool. We all need to just talk about it. And then maybe it was because it was me that became awkward. And I needed them to talk about it to feel better about the world. Or maybe it was my own, you know, non-confrontationalist thing, which again is a fear-based state of thinking, which I didn't realize until I finally went, what am I afraid of? Also known as, who are you? Which is why I drew it on the paper. You know, who are you going to be, you know, today? Who are you at the office? Who are you when you're, you know, writing lyrics? Who are you when you're at yoga? You don't have to be always the same person, but being self-aware of who you are at that moment, kind of what facet of yourself are you at this moment? I think that it will give you better self-understanding so that you can tackle those fears maybe and start just really living a more gratifying and rich life. I don't know, something like that. No?
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a small token of our appreciation. It's
Thank
little,
you.
but thank you very much for
My
coming
mom
and
will
sharing
like
with us.
this too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.